want to show you how to do the twice melted wax pendants. And I know I always say this, but I think this is really one of my favorite all-time projects. It just turns out so incredible every time. You get something different every time. So it's a lot of fun. So let's get started and show you how we do it. These are all the different pendants and necklaces and bracelets and all kinds of different fun things that I came up with using the wax as our color base and adding a little bit of glitter. And see how fun they are. And while we've got all the different shapes and sizes, and you can find some of the smaller ones and different ones in the stores, I found some really wonderful ones that we sell at Miriam Joy that I have not found in the stores. These are deeper. We have an oval. We also have a circle, which I've got running around here somewhere. We've got one here to show you, and pendants and a heart. And these are really, really great. They're deeper. Now the pendant is not quite as deep as the other ones are, but they work just as well. So I'm going to show you how to do the basic on these. So let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to mention as well that these are really nice, and they are electroplated, both the pendant and the necklace, and we're selling them as one piece in the store, so you don't have to worry about that, and you just run your chain right through, so they don't need polished, and you're not going to turn green or any fun thing like that. And our pendant is just a separate piece. It's already got the pin on the back, so you can just put that right on. I melt my crayon in my low temp melting pot, and you can find those at miriamjoy.com. I use a Crayola crayon. I break it right about there into two pieces, peel the paper, and put it right in the well and let that warm. And then while it's warming, we're going to use glass eyedroppers, which you can also find on our site. And it's real important that they're glass and not plastic. And you're simply going to set that in the wax in the well, just right like that. And a lot of people want to know how they clean them, and I don't clean mine. I leave one for each color. The one thing that I will do is once I am done with a color is I'll make sure I squish it really well and get as much wax as I can out. You never want to pull the wax all the way up into the bowl, because once the wax dries it hardens, and then it's really hard to get it working again. But they're inexpensive enough that you can do one for each color. So that's kind of the basics on how we're going to start that. And then we're just going to decide what colors we want. And I'm going to work on the circle here. And I'm going to bring and put different waxes together. And some of my favorites are kind of a spring, I guess, color. And so we're just putting those on anywhere. You want to kind of fill the space up. Now this guy's a little bit deeper, but you don't want it have to come above the sides. That's real important. We'll talk about that kind of at the end when we get done here as well. And you kind of want it to harden if you're going to put a color next to the other one before you put the next one in, if they're touching, because it can run together. So that's kind of important. See how I'm kind of putting them out there, and I'm kind of building it up higher as well. And we may go back and build those even higher if we feel that they're too low. And I've used carnation. This is robin's egg that I'm using now, and I've got carnation pink and yellow green so far. One of my favorite colors to use is dandelion. I'm not really a yellow person, but if you want it to pop, dandelion yellow is the one to bring out. It really just adds so much to a color. And in this one, I noticed I mixed in a little bit of gold metallic And I'm going to show you a metallic crayon in just a second here, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The metallic crayons give you your shininess, or also your glitter crayons, and they're really great to bring that shine, but they don't give the necklace the bright color that you want. So you always want to do 1 or 2, but no more than that, because it starts to get dull if you do. They don't have that bright color. And I'm going to use Cyber Grape Metallic, which is one of my favorites. I like to use Sunburst Gold a lot, and also the Cyber Grape. And you can see I'm putting quite a bit of different pieces in here. That gives you more of a swirl pattern instead of doing one solid color. Now you can see how low we go down some of these areas, so I'm going to come back in here. And I'm going to build these up just a little bit. Now see how I said you kind of wanted to let that dry before it touched? See how the gold is running together with the purple right now? You really don't want it to do that. You kind of want it to keep separate. So you should let them cool in between. And you can't really mess this up. If you don't like what you've done, pop it out and start all over. Just take your hobby knife and kind of catch it on the side and pop it right on out. So I think that's not too bad right there. We've kind of got it all pretty well. The one thing I do suggest is letting this all cool, because if I heat it right now, my colors that I just put on are more liquefied than the other ones, and they'll melt faster and take the other ones longer. So if you let them cool off where they're all kind of more the same temperature, they'll have melt more evenly together. The metallics and the glitter crayons do take a little bit longer to melt, but that's okay. While that guy is drying a little bit, I'm going to talk about the pendant. Now if you were working on the pendant, we'd have to set something under this guy to make him even on top. So you'd have to find something the right height to make him stand just straight across. That's real important, especially when you're melting it. And the pendants are really fun. It just takes a tiny bit of wax on those, and see how pretty those are. So those are a lot of fun as well. So this guy should be pretty dry, and I'm going to move him under my heat gun. And I've got my heat gun hanging on a shepherd's hook that I picked up at the craft store in the garden section to hang plants on, and it connects right to my table, so I really like that. Now when I'm working with this, I also love to add a tiny bit of glitter, and I'm a glitterholic, I know that. So I've kind of got purple going, I'm going to add a little bit of more purple, and I'm going to use fine. You can use tencel glitter, you can use micro beads, any of that. But I like the glitters where I can grab it with my fingers and sprinkle it on just certain areas, not the whole area. And another tool that we'll be using, and this is our brand new tool. This is our itty bitty, and it's the smallest of our wax design tools, and I love to use it when I'm working with these because we can move things around. And it's almost better to move around less than more. And you could even heat it and not move it around. So I'm going to turn my embossing gun on, and I may need to pull it down a little bit lower here. If you don't have a hook, that's fine. You can simply do it by holding it with your hand, but I like to hold it on a hook, so when I just want to let go of it and move stuff, I can. And always kind of start on the outside edges first. And you can see when I got it closer, it started blowing there, so that may be a reason you want to keep it higher. If you didn't want to blow as much, you can keep it up higher there. And I'm going to blow that, get it nice and warm all the way around. It's starting to melt. And I've also got my tool laying next to it so that it's also warming. Now unfortunately my tray it's kind of got a bubble there, so it's not quite as even. Now you can see we're starting to get really melty there, but the green is not melted as much as the other colors still. You can see that. So I'm just trying to melt it without moving it too much. And you can move it around with the embossing tool, and however you want to do that, that's fine. So now I'm going to make sure this guy's warm. I moved him out of the way. I shouldn't have. And we're just going to start moving these however you want to do these. And a lot of times if I notice that I have less of a color, it's not showing up as much, I'll pull that color out. And you can bring it in a swirl. You can do all kinds of fun things with it. And like I said, I think it's almost better to do less than more. And now I'm going to, while it's still nice and warm, I'm going to put a little bit of purple, and I'm going to try and keep it more just in the purple areas. Not much at all, just a little bit. Now I notice this guy is, like I said, my table is not quite even. And I did notice too when I'm setting it down that the bell on that is just a little bit below that. So set it on your table where it's nice and flat and hang that over the edge, and then that'll even out a little bit more. You also can set that glitter in just a tad if you're afraid it's going to come off, just by heating that just a little bit more. If you don't like it, I'll show you what you can do with that. But see how fun that is, and every time they're different. This is one of my just favorite things. I could sit and work on these all day long. They're just so much fun. So if you don't like one that you've done, you're just going to let it cool all the way off, and you could either use your tool or you could use your hobby knife, and that will just pop right out. So that's why it's really, really important that we were talking about on not having this reach the outside edges. And if you do get any along the outside edges, take your knife and scrape that off, and then we're going to come back in and we're going to cover it. And we can use different things to cover it. We've got 3D crystal lacquer and we've got Mod Podge. You may find that you prefer one over the other. The Mod Podge is supposed to be a little bit more heavy duty, so you could use that one if you prefer. So, but the crystal lacquer, I did a few of them with the crystal lacquer as well. So that's the reason we do not want the wax above, is we have to make sure that the crystal lacquer or the Mod Podge touches the metal. If it doesn't touch the metal, it's not going to seal the wax completely, and it's real important that we get a nice heavy coat on this so that the wax is sealed completely and it doesn't melt if somebody was wearing it and go anywhere. So that's real important. And I start around the edges, make sure we're touching that metal, and just work your way in, and it's going to be a nice thick coat. If you have any bubbles, you can usually get them out with a pin, a straight pin, or come out. Sometimes you can just grab them and they'll come out. And we're just going to keep going around and around. Now you can see my wax actually goes down in, but that's okay because this is where the coat on top is going to cover all of that up. So then you would just let that completely dry, and that's going to take a while, probably overnight, if not longer, and just make sure it's nice and flat. And then once that's dry, all you're going to do is take your chain and run it through, and you have a necklace. And these are really great for Halloween, Christmas. I've got some Christmas colors here. I've got kind of a Halloween one here. So there's all kinds of fun things you can do. It's just unlimited. And you can see we literally made this necklace in a matter of minutes. All we need now is our dry time. So this is just a real fun, fun project to do, and you can do it with others as well. If you need any of the necklace sets, those are on our website at miriamjoy.com, and we'll be bringing you the, like we talked about, the oval, the circle, the fancy pendant, as well as the one that you pin on, and the heart. I forgot the little heart here. So there's so much that you can do with that. On the Christmas one, I'm going to use a frame pendant. This guy is not as deep, so he's not going to take as much. So we want to think about Christmas colors. So of course when we start with Christmas, we always think of red, don't we? So I'm going to start with red. Now remember, we want to keep him under that inside. We don't want the wax higher than the outside, so that's real important. We want to think about that. And we want to make sure we build up the wax in the middle, though, a little bit as well. And so we're going to start with red. And of course I'm going to use some yellow. And this is dandelion yellow. And that just adds the pop like we talked about. And then I'm going to use 2 colors of green. I'm going to start with my green yellow first. And if you drop it on there, I'm going to try and get that off a little bit while it's still wet. They're a little bit harder to get off. And last time I took my toothbrush and did that. And you can even seal it first and then come back and get that out. So it's good to kind of know how to do that, because if it happens to me, chances are it'll happen to you. So I'm going to deal with that a little bit later. You could even heat it up a little bit and then wipe it off with the... And let's go ahead and do that, just so you can see. I'm going to just heat that up just a little bit right there. You see how it's nice and melted? And then I'm going to come in with my Q-tip and take that out a little bit more. And you can go back and forth till you get that all the way melted out. So that's how you kind of deal with a drip if you do the pendant. Now the other ones, you're not going to have to worry about that because they're just on the side and you just pull them right off the side. So that's easy enough. So we're back on our yellow-green. And then I'm going to use green. Now I'm going to go back and make my red bigger. And I still want a little bit to put some gold into. And I'm going to be using Sunburst Gold. So we want to leave. When you need to kind of think about all the colors that you're using when you're doing that. Okay. And I dropped it right there, but that's okay, it does not matter. And that's pretty well all the way around. So we're going to let this dry for just a minute to get it all the same coolness, so when we heat it, that it all heats up about the same time. When I get back from that, after we do that, I'm going to put some gold glitter on, and I really like this gold glitter because it's got really fine glitter, plus it's also got some bigger glitter, so it kind of gives you that Christmas sparkle. So that's why I like using that one. And I'm also going to put some micro beads in this one, and I'm going to try and put it on just the green, and on the gold I'm probably going to try to put just on the gold or the yellow. And micro beads come in different colors so that you could do gold or red or whatever you wanted to do, but I like to keep it just to the different, confined just to the different areas. That way you don't overdo it on the necklace, but you still have all that fun sparkle. So I'm going to go ahead and try warming that up now. I'm going to set my tool aside. Again, that's the Itsy Bitsy 00 tool. And I'm going to start on the outside first and work my way in. And you can see that's starting to melt. And sometimes you might want to bring it up a little higher so you're not blowing that around too much. And make sure my tool is nice and warm as well. And then I'm going to kind of, let's see, if you run into a chunk that's not melted all the way, it's kind of a hard piece. And you can just keep melting that. And I kind of want to make a swirl in this one, kind of like a Christmas swirl. And I almost have that where I want that. So I think that is really, really good. So I'm going to come in while it is still warm, and we're going to put our Christmas spirit on. And using your fingers with this is the best way to apply it. I haven't found a better way. And I'm going to just put a few micro balls on just that darker green, and maybe just a little bit right around there. You don't want to overdo it. Now I am going to heat those just a little bit, especially because the micro balls are heavier. But I don't want to move the wax around anymore. I like that design. So there is how we do our Christmas one, and I'm going to go ahead and get ready and put my coating over that just as soon as it cools. We're going to do our Halloween spider web next, and in that I'm going to use the glitter crayons. This is a orange, and it's got the black in it, and then the black has the orange in it, so they work really well with each other, and they're fun at Halloween, and those are the glitter crayons. So it's going to take quite a bit of the orange, so we may have to stop and peel some more crayon in here. You're going to fill it up, but you don't want it above the edges. All the way around. And I've got to make just a little bit more crayon. It seems a lot when you're just using one color instead of a bunch of colors. And just so that middle part is not dipping in very far. Now this is all still pretty much one solid color, so I'm not going to worry about letting it cool this time. And I'm going to go ahead and add my black right at the top here. Right there. We're going to pull down from that, make our spider web, and I'm also going to just pull it kind of across. You could do one solid line. I'm going to try bending them just a little bit this time. And we've got that all done. So we're going to go ahead and heat it, because again it's all the same warmth. And I'm going to use my hobby knife this time. Make sure you have it beside it warming up. Now we don't want to blow those around very much at all. So once those are liquid enough to move, we're just going to pull, and it's not quite liquid enough. If you get a ridge in it, if it's too soon, just pull it back up and just let it warm up. That's okay. This could actually be a little bit more liquid. And we're going to go ahead and pull it down there and there. And I want to see about adding a little bit more in between so we get that real spider web look. So we've got that. I'm going to set him back up where he's a little bit more even so that he's all nice and neat, and then we're going to trim off his sides. So this guy has dried, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my sealer over the top. And I think instead of letting this guy set in and try to get him right, this is just a spider ring, and I cut off the bottom, and I'm going to put some E6000 on him once this is completely dry, and just glue that right on top so he'll look really neat. And you might have to set something on him a little bit just to hold him down. Otherwise, I'm afraid that would sink into our lacquer, and we don't want to do that. So that is our little fun Halloween web one. We're going to work next on the bleeding heart design. And this is, again, we're going to fill this guy all the way up. So it's going to take a little bit of wax here. And I'm going to keep adding as I'm going so it's melting. Keep it below that line, but fill it up. And this is a real elegant, my husband says it looks very antique-ish, so. And we're going to fill that all the way up. You want to make sure it's not dipped too much in the middle. I think that's really good right there. I'm not quite up on the edges there, so all the way on the edges. Now, you can go ahead, that guy's pretty much all the same warmth. It's not too hot or cold, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to the next part of that. And what we're going to do is use our number 1 tool, and we're going to make some dots. And I'm going to use my black, and I'm going to just barely dot it. And you can do descending dots, making smaller ones up near the top, and you can make bigger ones going near the bottom. And if you need to re-dip it, just dip over it again. Now, if this wax was really warm still, it would already start spreading out. So we've kind of got them all lined up. Now you could do this with your knife, which is probably what I'm going to use, but you also could do it with your itty bitty tool if you wanted to as well. I'm going to go ahead and start to melt it. I'm going to make sure I melt my tool, or warm my tool, excuse me. And you want that real liquidy. But you don't want to move it around. You want to make sure that's nice and warm. And if it's real liquidy, you're just going to pull that right down the middle. And you should get little tiny, almost heart formations. You can do one, I did a reverse one up the side right there, but what I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to add just a little bit of glitter in this area right here. And leave that nice and simple. I'm going to hit it just that glitter area. I'm not going to try to hit that other part at all. Just that glitter area. Hit it just a little bit more right in the middle. And that is it. Isn't that beautiful? how simple and beautiful that is. And we're just going to let it dry, and then we'll add our sealer to it. We're going to do kind of an oriental looking one. And we're going to just, again, fill it completely with the red wax. All the way up. Just make sure you've got it filled enough that it's not really low down on the bottom. And we're going to let this one really cool really well. On this one, we want to make sure it's really, really dry. And you could do this with your texture brush as well, but it's a harder piece to get into. So I'm going to do it with a real coarse fan brush. And we're just going to dip it into our wax, and we're going to pull the lines. We don't want a lot of wax on it, just enough. And we're going to pull it in both directions. And I usually like to do this method with the texture brush. It seems to work a little bit better, but I was worried about getting into the area, so you could try both with that. And then it doesn't need a lot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to melt it again, just enough. I keep trying to hold on to it, and I know I get in the way of the camera here. So, we've got that pretty good. So I'm just going to come in and melt that just till I want it. See how that really just takes that and just comes alive. And you also can do, if you want, just a couple of flicks. You can do it with your fan brush or your wax brush, either one, just to get that on there. And that is a nice and simple one. The last one we're going to do is a stone, and I'm going to do a turquoise stone, but I want you to think of stones in different colors as well. You could do a red stone, you could do a black stone, you could do a yellow stone. They'd all be basically the same, and it'd actually keep the accent colors the same as we're going to do, just change the base color. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill this up, and you can use blue-green with white mixed half and half. This is robin's egg. So it's a little bit more blue. The blue-green would be a little bit more green. So however you want to do that, that is totally up to you. Now on this one, we are going to let this guy cool all the way down before we put his stone accents in him. So we're going to let him cool. I'm going to put my black lines on with my hobby knife. So I'm going to set my hobby knife on the side of my well and let it warm up in the wax. And just lift that straight out. And you can scrape it along the side. You don't want a lot of wax. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to make those lines here and there. Doesn't matter. You also can put these on with your wax liner if you wanted to. And you can see I'm cutting into the wax just a little bit. That's alright. There's nothing wrong or right about it. Just however you see it. So I've got that there. And then I'm going to take a Q-tip and I'm going to put some white on. And I know you can't see, but one of the kind of things that I do is I will put my white on the top part of my well so I don't have to do the whole color, and just melt it just a little section while I've still got a different color in the well. And that works for just a little amount as we want. And we're just going to put enough white, not very much. In fact, I would have liked a little bit less on this top part up here. That it'll melt, so that's okay. Because you don't, a stone is usually not solid unless you have a very, very, very nice piece. And then I'm going to take my copper, because with turquoise there is copper, and I'm going to put it in the corner again and do the same thing with our wax brush and just flick it just a tiny bit, just like that. That's perfect. If you wanted the dots to stay smaller, you could do it after you heat the rest of it up and put them on top. These will get a little bit bigger because we'll warm them. So we're just going to warm this just to the point where it's kind of all melted and looks natural. Always start around the edges. We really don't want to move the wax around a lot. If you got too much white, and we'll see if we think that white's too much, we might come back and put some turquoise back over the top of that with our Q-tip. Just so that's not... There we go. You also could make the lines with your wax liner. You want to just move that a little bit. Not very much at all. Just know that you can play with it. You can do all kinds of things. I'm going to see if I can get some of this black to go away. Just kind of cover that up a little bit with the turquoise on top. There is no right or wrong with it. There. I like that just the way it is. You can see how our copper dots got bigger, and like I said, if you want them smaller, wait and do that at the end after it's completely dry, and they'll just be small little flecks. But there that is. If you want to do it a different way or a different color, all kinds of things you can do to make your stone or make the lines, the black lines, a lot smaller, but I really like that, and that's how we do our turquoise stone.